Hi gang, the Novamarines are a chapter cast in the mould of Guilliman himself, staunch adherents to the Codex Astartes, so dedicated that absolutely no outside influence could ever make them stray from its tenets. A legacy they hold with pride and that gets completely thrown out the window the minute someone mentions body art.
Hey look, I've got merch now. Have a look below or stay tuned at the end to find out more.
The Novamarines chapter of the Adeptus Astartes stand as a stalwart bastion of the Imperium, renowned for their unwavering and dogmatic adherence to the sacred tenets of the Codex Astartes and to pretty much everything else about the Imperium. They see themselves as exemplars of discipline and honour, even by the elevated standards of Space Marines, serving for 10,000 years as dogged and independent defenders of the Ultima Segmentum from its many terrors. Their high standards of honour and devotion to duty, coupled with their rigid adherence to ancient customs, mark them as a distinctive and formidable force within the Imperium. But the culture and influence of their planet can't be denied, and it's subtly changed their organisational structures over the last 10 millennia. The Novamarines are a second founding chapter created in the years after the Horus Heresy from the genetic lineage of Robute Guilliman and from the Ultramarines Legion. The second founding was a pivotal moment in Imperial history, enacted in the wake of the Heresy War. Robute Guilliman, then Lord Commander of the Imperium, reorganised the vast Space Marine legions into smaller, more manageable chapters of around 1,000 Marines. This fragmentation was designed to ensure that no single commander could again wield enough power to threaten the entire human race, as Horus had done during the Heresy. Dozens of chapters were created at this time, formed from the broken down legions and often commanded by great heroes of the Heresy War. The first chapter master of the new Novamarines was Lucretius Corvo, originally an Ultramarines officer who earned considerable renown during the Horus Heresy, particularly in his battles against the traitorous Word-Bearers. During one critical engagement on the world of Astartes, Corvo and his forces endured a 6-day siege, managing to resist annihilation before ultimately destroying a traitor warlord battle titan and successfully breaking out of their besieged position. Corvo is also documented to have commanded Ultramarines forces during the Battle of Sotha, and for those exceptional acts of courage and martial prowess, Corvo was personally decorated with a Laurel of Defiance by Guilliman, and it was a mark of the trust Guilliman placed in him that he was granted control of one of the new chapters. At their inception, the Novamarines were granted the pre-imperial fortress world of Honorum. This world held particular significance as it marked the furthest point the Ultramarines had penetrated into the galactic north during the Great Crusade. From this formidable stronghold, the Novamarines have maintained their martial strength and traditions across the last 10 millennia. Honorum itself is a harsh, feral world characterized by a single significant landmass dominated by towering mountain peaks. Atop these sit the domains of the chapter. The chapter's fortress monastery, known as the Fortress Novum, serves as their primary base, but in the years since, the tech marines of the chapter planed flat each mountaintop, transforming them into sites for statues to immortalize the chapter's greatest heroes. The indigenous population of Honorum consists of primitive tribes who endure a brutal existence on the unforgiving world. It's a treacherous environment for human life. The plants and many of the indigenous fauna have a high level of heavy metal saturation, making them toxic to humans. The oceans teem with dangerous predators, and the climate is riven by lightning storms. This, of course, is considered perfect for an Astartes recruitment base, and the chapter takes its recruits from the youth of those tribes, subjecting them to rigorous psycho-indoctrination to purge them of their beliefs and mould them into noble space marines. But 10,000 years is a long time, and the chapter has adopted a small number of ritual practices from that recruitment base. Their initial oath was to protect the entire Ultima Segmentum, a vast area of unexplored wilderness and nascent alien empires that was, to be honest, a fair amount smaller back then. Their domains have grown significantly since, and the frontier they protected significantly further away, but the chapter still considers the whole region their duty to defend. This wide-ranging mandate means that while they possess a homeworld, their forces are often widely dispersed throughout Imperial space in a number of fleets, constantly vigilant and ready to respond to calls for aid, with individual battle brothers away from the homeworld for much of their lives. This dedication has earned them a reputation for quick reaction times and an unquestioning willingness to assist other Imperial forces, often resulting in other Space Marine chapters owing the Novamarines a considerable honour debt, as seen with the Sable Swords chapter, whom the Novamarines saved from destruction at the hands of the Eldar. Their strategic dispersion and their independence also places them in the position of being a crucial last line of defence when the Imperium is embroiled in other threats. The Pale Wasting, a dreadful period in M34, saw a threat arise from the Ghoul Stars, the nature of which is not recorded anywhere because the Imperium at the time was embroiled with the Nova Terra Interregnum, and therefore records are sparse. The plaque erected to commemorate the event within the Imperial Palace lists that the Novamarines successfully defended the Imperium by having unmade that which cannot die, and significant inquisitorial investigations suggest that whatever the threat actually was, multiple other chapters might have been destroyed during the conflict, but the Ghoul Stars hold many secrets, and what this one actually was has been lost to history. The Novamarines, as successors of the Ultramarines, are hardline and dogmatic adherents to the Codex Astartes. They view Guilliman's organisational work as sacrosanct, guiding their every action, even viewing it as a divine work, though they remain otherwise a secular chapter. Their commitment to the Codex is so profound that they're recognised as exemplars of Guilliman's writ by other imperial authorities, and have even drawn the blood of those who would scorn it. And despite their tendency to be spread across the galaxy, they maintain a strict adherence to those traditions, refusing any deterioration. The chapter operates a full complement of 10 companies, organised in the classic Codex pattern. Each company, while potentially deployed far from the chapter's central command, maintains its own structural integrity, and the Novamarines' heraldry and markings closely mirror ones codified during the Great Crusade. One notable diversion being that they don't make use of company numerals on their armour. Presumably that's allowed in the Codex. Their colours are quartered blue and bone, a scheme based on the personal heraldry of Lucretius Corvo, and their chapter symbol is a skull within a 12-pointed star. Beneath the regulation markings of their power armour, however, the Novamarines incorporate a unique tradition adopted from their homeworld: ritual tattooing. Just like the Honorum tribesmen from whom they recruit, Novamarines battle brothers tattoo their skin, creating an evolving illustration of their life and career. Within the chapter's cult, this practice is believed to armour the soul against dark entities and allows the Emperor to judge their deeds upon their death. It also provides a cultural link for a chapter who might otherwise spend decades apart from their brothers. When chapter members reunite, they often spend hours recounting the tales that led to their particular new markings, comparing tattoos. Similar traditions persist in the chapter's librarian, which maintains a number of ritual roles. The precise functioning of that librarian is largely unknown to outsiders, though its atypical nature is said to be comparable to the Rune Priests of the Space Wolves or the Storm Seers of the White Scars. The Novamarines, true to their Codex-compliant nature, utilise the full spectrum of Astartes' combat doctrines. They're a chapter that excels in swift and decisive strikes, often hitting the enemy hard and fast to overwhelm them before they can react effectively. The chapter's armoury is exceptionally well maintained, preserving much of its original equipment in excellent condition. They're capable of deploying their entire first company in tactical dreadnought armour should the need arise, and their mechanised forces are robust, including a wide variety of Rhino-based vehicles and equipment, such as early patterns of Predator, Vindicator and Whirlwind tanks, alongside numerous dreadnoughts. They also possess a stock of ancient weapons and war machines inherited from the Great Crusade era. Their fleet resources are also significant. They've been expanded over time. They received a newly commissioned strike cruiser recently as a reward from the Adeptus Mechanicus for securing STC materials from the rogue Space Hulk Death of Integrity. The Novamarines also maintain a large core of Death Watch veterans within their ranks. Their extensive experience in purging Xenos, their wide-ranging missions, and their history of swift, decisive actions make them a favoured chapter for the Inquisition when forming Deathwatch kill teams, and these returned Deathwatch Marines retain access to any arms and equipment they acquired during their service, as well as a core of knowledge on the different threats of the Segmentum. The Battle Brothers of the Novamarines maintain, as you might expect, a dogmatic adherence to the Codex. They view Guilliman's teachings as the absolute truth, truth, rarely questioning or deviating from them. And that strictness extends beyond just military organization into a broader philosophy that shapes their entire culture. Central to their beliefs is an absolute certainty in the need to exterminate all Xenos life, and they're considered hardline proponents of the monodominant philosophy, something quite rare in the Adeptus Astartes. This ideology, rooted in the writings of Inquisitor Goldo in the 33rd millennium, asserts humanity's sacred duty to conquer the galaxy and immolate all who deny mankind's right to rule. For the Novamarines, there are no shades of grey between innocence and corruption. Aliens can never be trusted, and their existence is an insult to humanity. Their beliefs dictate the complete and total destruction of every alien in the galaxy, and they don't hesitate to resort to drastic military solutions to enforce that will, their hatred often growing as the Marine continues in their service. This conviction means they will not work alongside aliens, even if such an alliance would be tactically sound, and that's sometimes been the cause of friction with other chapters. Internally, Novamarines battle brothers are taught to be fearless and immovable in the face of any horror. Their strict discipline and very high standards are not merely military, but spiritual, aiming to fortify the soul, and they consider themselves examples to other chapters and to the Imperium at large. Their battle brothers are also often very well-travelled and knowledgeable about the galaxy, particularly about alien threats and threats common to various areas of the segmentum. The Novamarines also maintain close ties to the Ultramarines and to other Ultramarine successors, yet the vast distance between Honorum and Macragge limits frequent contact. Despite this, many Novamarines aspire to undertake a pilgrimage to the shrine of the Primarch at least once in their lifetimes. Those who complete such a pilgrimage adorn their battle helmets with a laurel wreath, a mark of great honour. The chapter have been active participants in a number of significant conflicts throughout the 41st millennium. One of their most defining recent actions was the Lock-Kroll xenocide in M37. This was a systematic extermination of the Lock-Kroll species, whose empire was based near the warp anomaly known as the Storm of the Emperor's Wrath. The Lock-Kroll were not only hated aliens, but also chaos worshippers, and the Novamarines were only too happy to resort immediately to Exterminatus-class weaponry to rid the galaxy of them, eventually destroying their entire empire in less than 50 years. The conflict was notably the last recorded instance of the entire chapter gathering its full strength in one place. In 887 M39, the Novamarines were instrumental in purging the Space Hulk Death of Integrity, sighted near Vol Secundus. This millennia-old vessel was heavily infested by gene stealers and had twice presaged an invasion by Tyranid fleets, which prompted a combined assault by the Blood Drinkers, Novamarines, and the Adeptus Mechanicus. The situation escalated dramatically when the ancient AI vessel Spirit of Eternity, a relic of the Dark Age of technology, was discovered at the centre of the Hulk. The surviving Imperial forces were ultimately forced to retreat as the Death of Integrity entered the warp, attempting to flee to another galaxy, but the Novamarines managed to secure valuable STC materials from it, which of course prompted the Adeptus Mechanicus to gift them that strike cruiser as a reward. The Novamarines then played a role in the infamous Badab War, a major rebellion against the Imperium led by the Astral Claws and other renegade chapters. They deployed 2 companies supported by 3 strike cruisers and smaller attack vessels, commanded by Mordecai Blaylock, the first company captain. The strike force arrived in the zone in 906 M41 and operated as a mobile reserve for the Loyalists, rushing to the aid of beleaguered brother Space Marines in small detachments and guarding vital supply lines, including against opportunistic third parties like Eldar and Orcs. Their actions were likely to have been instrumental in allowing the Howling Griffins to continue operations in the area, as their fleet harried the Renegade Executioners chapter, and their forces saw combat on Sagan and in the Endymion cluster. After 2 years of honourable service, the Novamarines forces withdrew from the Badab War in 908 M41, citing the need to contest an Orc invasion threatening their homeworld. Some records, however, speculate that the Inquisition may have reassigned them, fearing they wouldn't be enthusiastic enough to be in at the kill with the secessionist chapters. Following the Badab War, the Novamarines continued their service across the Imperium. They sent 6 companies to aid the Imperial Defence Forces during the 13th Black Crusade in 909 M41, and members of the chapter were part of the resurrected Robute Guilliman's army during the Terran Crusade. During the Plague Wars of M42, they contributed significant forces to defend Ultramar, and they were instrumental in the defence of the Star Fort Galatan, incurring heavy losses, including their then chapter master, Barden Davaro, killed by Typhus of the Death Guard. They also participated in the siege of Thalassa Secundus during the Plague Wars, where Captain Lobos battled the Death Guard again alongside the Silver Templars, though that conflict resulted in lingering tensions between the two chapters. Most recently, the Novamarines, alongside the Excruciators and the Mentors chapters, led a mixed host of Battle Sisters, Skitarii and Imperial Guard in an invasion of the industrial world of Ferric during the Charodon campaign, and they were also involved in the Arcs of Omen debacle, supporting the Dark Angels and the Knights of House Raven in the battle for the Rock, fending off an invasion orchestrated by Vashtor the Archithane. The opening of the Great Rift and the subsequent return of Guilliman have ushered in a new era generally for the Imperium, and the Novamarines have adapted to the changed galaxy with their typical resolve. Since those cataclysmic events, the Novamarines have been designated one of the 10 shield chapters of Ultramar, solidifying their crucial role in defense of their progenitors. The chapter has also readily integrated Primaris Space Marine technology into its ranks. While some chapters initially resisted or mistrusted these newcomers, the Novamarines, with their focus on efficiency and strength, embraced these Primaris battle brothers, whether awoken from stasis or indoctrinated through new recruitment, and those have bolstered their fighting strength. The Novamarines are an interesting blend of traditionalist and deviant. Their long history of service, their unyielding adherence to the Codex Astartes, and their grim determination to exterminate all threats to humanity make them some of the most hardline of Space Marine chapters, despite the many differences that they have adopted over the years from their feral homeworld. And in the era Indomitus, they seem to be even more dispersed than ever, with Novamarines seeing action in all corners of the galaxy. And that is the Novamarines. It must be said, they haven't changed much since their introduction to the game. Like all the other Badab chapters, we first meet them in the original Badab War article in White Dwarf in 1989, here depicted in their original scheme of dark blue with red trim, and they then show up in almost every depiction of the Ultramarines' successors from that point onwards as a general example of basically using the Ultramarines' colours in a slightly different way. It wasn't until the Badab War Forge World books in 2010 that they really became fleshed out with a culture and a home world and a history, although it should be said that they've got one of the shortest articles of all the chapters detailed here. I think they're mostly included to show that these conflicts still tend to have one very Ultramarine-y chapter in them, even if they deviate a little from the mould. Since then, they've popped up a few times. Guy Haley's Death of Integrity in 2013 has them as secondary characters. Corvo pops up in Pharos and the heresy short Laurels of Defiance, and the Dark Imperium series has fun folding them in to the wider plot of Guilliman. One of the places they actually get the most expansion is the Fantasy Flight Deathwatch RPG, which makes sense. A force of void-wandering alien haters is a pretty straight choice for a main chapter in that book. But otherwise, they're relatively nondescript. Not a lot is written about them. Just like in the lore, really, they're always there, being slightly more Ultramarine-y than even the Ultramarines. Thanks for watching. And if you'd like to hear more about the chapters of the Badab War or the rest of 40k, there might be a video popping up there to the right, or you can like and subscribe. You can support the channel with Patreon memberships or YouTube memberships, and of course there's merch in the store below. See ya!